Hey YouTubers, my Kubota L175. I knew the clutch was on its last legs when I got it on an inspection, and it's done. It's time to do this clutch. And if you know anything about these tractors, you know that to do that we have to split. We have to split the tranny, or sorry, the bell housing off of the engine to get out the clutch. And so it's tricky at the best of times, but what makes this one particularly tricky is the Johnson Workhorse loader. Now I've read that you can split this without taking the loader off, and I can see where that does make sense. The one real tricky part about that is right here, where the hydraulic pump is. You can see where the line, these are solid lines that go right into the pump. And the bracket right here is attached to the Workhorse. So if I was trying to separate these lines would be in the way. Because I've seen YouTube videos of guys doing this without the Workhorse loader, and they just disconnect the hydraulic pump and just get it out of the way of the bell housing. And but for me, somehow I'm gonna have to either take off the whole loader, or I've been thinking and talking to my welder friend that my other option might be to cut it right here, cut the bracket right there, disconnect it, cut it, disconnect it, get it right out of the way, so that when we go to move the tractor forward, it's not in the way. I'll try to keep you. As we progress here, I'll do videos, but I'm not going to be able to let the camera run as I'm doing it because I'll be working and my hands will be covered in grease. Okay, I finally got started on my clutch job, getting ready to split the tractor. But I just wanted to give you some tips, some things that I discovered that might help you in this process. Of course, one of the first things we had to do was take the steering wheel off, and we did that without a wheel puller. I'll put a link up there to my video on how we did that without a wheel puller. It was quite easy and it worked out really well. So, from what I could tell from other videos that I had seen where they had split tractors, they took this console right off and just moved it forward. And that was indeed the way to go. And that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. The only thing we had to disconnect, let me show you to move it back here, was the tack, the cable that runs to the tack, attaches right there. And it screwed off really easy. And then it was just a matter of, you know, taking some of the wires off some of the clips, giving ourselves as much slack as we could, and it moved. And then of course we had to lift it up over the steering column, and that was a bit of a, you know, it took a little bit to get all the slack we needed to get over the column, but it worked. And there's my cluster in the front. So then we just went around and we loosened all the bolts. We haven't taken them out yet. We loosened all the bolts in our bell housing. And everything, actually, I didn't have any problems with any of these bolts. I don't know if it was all the vibration or... Hey everybody, just a quick pickup. I forgot to mention in the video that I did before we split the tractor that we did end up taking the gas tank off. The gas tank bracket attaches right here, and we took it off so that we could get at those top two bolts. It made it a lot easier to get those two bolts off, so we did end up taking it off. And then we had, of course, to lift it up over the column and get it out of the way. Just a tip, it was easy to take off. There's a shut-off on the tank, and so we took the line off the other end and lifted it up. But just a tip, I got quite a bit of fuel in here, and it was pretty heavy. There's the shut-off right there. So we disconnected the shut-off, and we disconnected the line right there underneath the tank. And we realized later that, as I said, there's quite a bit of fuel in there. We could have easily disconnected the line from the fuel filter and drained the diesel into a container. But that's okay, live and learn. But there's a tip for you. So I did have to take the tank off, and that was very easy to do. Okay, hey everybody, just an update, a progress report. We had a couple of snags yesterday. We're not putting in 8-hour days. You know, we're working 4 or 5 hours, but we had a couple of snags yesterday. The first one being it took us a while to get our chain hoist hooked up. We had to kind of, you know, find our bits and pieces, but we got that ready. So that's ready to, we're not going to move it, we're just stabilizing it so it's in the same place. The other snag we ran into was we went to take the steering rod off. It didn't want to come off. We probably could have tried heat. We didn't try heat, but that thing didn't want to come off. So our next best idea was to take the whole steering column off and the steering box. So we removed it and we just lifted it right out of the way. And the other snag was this hydraulic pump. Holy smokes. I've got the hydraulic pump right off, and it's in a bucket, but that was really tough to get off. The nuts on the back, holy smokes, nuts on studs on the back, bolts on the front side. That was really tough to get off. But we got it, so we're ready to go today. We'll split it today. We've got our jacks in place. We've got our nice big beefy floor jack supporting the bell housing and the transmission, and that'll be the jack that we roll the back half of the tractor away. And I've got this other floor jack supporting the frame of the front end loader. And our idea is that we're going to be able to, we're hoping we can lower the front end lower. Everything's unbolted. I'm going to put a couple of straps on the loader here and attach it to my beam up here on both sides. Not for lifting it, just basically for stabilizing it once we lower it and raise it, just so it's stable. So yeah, we'll split it today. So to be continued. We were able to remove all of the bolts holding this front end loader to the tractor, and I disconnected the front bucket, but what we couldn't undo or even loosen was these two bolts right here. There's one on either side. They were really tight. Even with a big braking bar, we couldn't get those to loosen. And all we can think of that's holding this frame up, that's blocking us from lowering the frame down, are these two struts here. They're on either side. This is welded right here, and then this strut is connected to the bottom of the frame. So all we can think of is that's what's keeping us from being able to lower this frame of the front end loader down. Here's this bracket, and it bolts right to the motor, and there's a spacer in there. And of course you couldn't get those hydraulic lines through there, so I just cut it right there and got it out of the way. And my buddy's confident that we can weld that back on and it'll be fine. I'll grind the edge of the bracket to make a reservoir for his weld, and he's confident that'll be fine. While we're at it, I might even get him to weld another support from this point here up to here, just for good measure. Got that out of the way so that we could bend these hydraulic lines back, and we split it. You know, these things split pretty easy. It's a small tractor. We were able to the two of us, just working the wheels, you know, slowly, taking our time. It's split pretty easy. I don't think it'll be too much trouble getting it back together. So I've taken the pressure plate and the clutch. I'll show you that in a sec, but you can see the flywheel's in pretty good shape. When I had a mechanic look at this through the inspection port a few years ago, he told me, here's the pressure plate. He told me there was no more adjustment left on this pressure plate. You can even see here where somebody at one point spot welded it for some reason. I think they put additional spacers on there. But the actual clutch disc wasn't that bad. But I think somebody did this clutch disc, and either they couldn't afford to do this or they were going to sell it, and they didn't want to spend the money to do the pressure plate. This at Kubota, this is $600 up here in Canada, this pressure plate. I'm going to get it online. I'm going to get the disc and the pressure plate and the throwout bearing. I'm going to get that online for, I don't know, $200 with shipping and taxes, so that's what I'll do. But I suspect that's what happened. Somebody did the clutch on this thing a while ago, and they just put it back together like that because they decided that they were going to sell it. So anyway, so there you go. If anybody out there has one of these little Kubotas with this Johnson Workhorse, and they have any tips or comments, please include those below to share it with everybody. Because this Johnson Workhorse loader, as much as I like it, it's a great loader. It works really well. It sure made this job difficult. Anyway, I think it's going to go back together a lot easier than it was to take it apart. So check out my YouTube channel. Check out my website. There's some links up here. You'll see them coming up. And thanks for watching. Cheers.